ที่จะมีท่าเหยียด Over the course of the Half-Life timeline, there have been many key moments that, if changed slightly, would have led to a completely different future. The Black Mesa incident was one of these. Inside each of these iconic events, there were different factions that each had their own goals to fulfill, and one of these was more important than you might think, even if this group of Marines was not aware of it. Was the Black Mesa incident planned? Why was this group of highly trained men really sent to the science facility? And how did this faction spawn the creation of one of Half-Life's most infamous mods? Here we explore in the lore and story behind the Hazardous Environment Combat Unit. Over in an undisclosed location in the state of Arizona in the United States of America, a military base was constructed to train Marines for specialized missions across the country, the Santiago Military Base. This base, just like many others, contained barracks to house the Marines, helipads to send them off on missions, and vast areas to help them train and perfect their skills for dangerous environments and unconventional threats. This meant that they had to follow their orders perfectly, even if they did not agree with what they had to do. This sometimes came in the form of taking out innocents and other similar orders that sometimes left them with a moral dilemma. Guarded by military police and under the guidance of drill instructors, new units were pushed through basic training, the rope course, the live fire range, environmental hazard simulation, the test firing chamber, and night vision training just to pick up the basics on how to navigate any environment, avoid any potential dangers, and even experience the pain they would feel out on a mission to prepare themselves for it. Over the years, two drill instructors became the most well known for their ability to push those under them into shape. Drill instructor Dwight T. Barnes and drill instructor Sharp, and under their command, each unit learned combat tactics, the various forms of weaponry, how to follow orders, how to communicate through a radio, and how to operate vehicles to ensure that their missions were completed to the best standard. Within the armory, the Marines were fitted with powered combat vests to protect them against incoming attacks. These, just like similar technology at the secret Black Mesa research facility, also had the ability to be charged by power ports to protect the Marine. Each mission was different, and to make sure that they had every chance of success, the Marines were trained in many different types of weaponry. Between the pistol, sniper, target, and live fire ranges, the soldiers were molded into their perfect specialty during squad training. Some were recognized instantly as the perfect squad leader and worked with an MP5 submachine gun with an M20 PI grenade launcher attachment to take out targets from a distance, or a SPAS 12 shotgun depending on their preference. In a similar vein, the demolition soldiers also used an MP5 submachine gun with the same attachment. These just had to follow the orders of their squad leader. Some Marines appeared to work better in close combat situations and became shotgun soldiers, in which they favored the SPAS 12 shotgun, and there were also the standard soldiers that held no specialty and just followed their orders as mere grunts, where they mostly used an MP5. Alongside these, some Marines worked better as support units, snipers, engineers, and medics. The snipers, equipped with an M40A1 sniper rifle, were essential in taking down targets from afar to help out their teams. Medics occasionally accompanied their squads and appeared to specialize with a pistol as they cleaned up and healed the wounded. One of the most important but less demanded units was the engineer. These carried with them a pistol and a welding torch. This allowed them to fight alongside their squad as they broke into sealed off areas. Each unit had a place on the team, and they were all just as important as each other. Their weapons training was essential, and the Marines each learned close combat with combat knives, demolitions with grenades, trip mines and satchel charges, and shot from afar with sniper rifles, mounted automatic weapons and RPGs. For any combat situation in any environment, they were ready. Alongside their weapons training, some Marines were also taught to drive both ground and air vehicles. When a mission came up, they were deployed with a V-22 Osprey, but they also had to make use of the AH-64 Apache helicopters and the M35 cargo trucks to not only travel but also move important cargo. They also operated other vehicles, however, these were the main ones. These land and air vehicles also came with their own forms of weaponry, and typically, the pilot and crew on board complemented the squad on site perfectly as support. In their training, the Marines were also introduced to Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law is commonly known as anything that can go wrong will go wrong. However, in this case, a grunt called Murphy had come up with 31 combat laws, some of which included: you are not a Superman. If your attack is going really well, it's an ambush. If the enemy is in range, so are you. And when both sides are convinced that they're about to lose, they are both right. This long list of laws either confused the Marines or helped them out. It was up to the Marine on how they took this information in. On occasion, when sent out into the field, the Marines also worked alongside other government forces, one of which was the Black Ops, who, unknown to the Marines, almost despised the sloppy work of the grunts as they often had to clean up their mess. The training was brutal but effective. The Marines just waited for their next assignment. Over the years, the Marines at the Santiago military base were sent out to complete missions. These missions were perfect for the skill set that these men had learned, and another mission was being prepared for a new group. Their actions in this mission would ultimately change the course of human history. As more joined the United States Marine Corps, they began training. One of these was Corporal Adrian Shepard. Shepard had joined under seemingly mysterious circumstances and was bumped up the advanced training list by an unknown sponsor. Someone wanted him to be prepared for this upcoming task force. The issue was that no one appeared to know or refused to say who this person was. As the military base entered May of the early 2000s, the Marines were trained vigorously and a rumor spread that there may be a mission on the horizon. This rumor was only amplified when a government-looking man was spotted at the base. If he were here to hire a team for a mission, everybody wanted to be on it. They were tired of the base and wanted to actually put their skills to the test. On May 7th, the government man returned and was noted to watch over the Marines. However, it appeared he focused mostly on one of them, Corporal Adrian Shepard. This confused Adrian as he wanted to know why this man was here, but he was also happy to have caught his attention. A couple of days later, on their morning run, the Marines were told that they had just 1 week to become experts at indoor strategic combat. To do this, they were sent to train in the combat simulation facility. This meant only one thing: the rumors were correct, and they were being prepped for a mission. Now they knew it was a mission indoors. As training continued at the combat simulation facility, the rumors continued to fly around and the name Black Mesa Facility popped up frequently. Not a lot was known about Black Mesa. All they knew was that this was a place that conducted top secret research. Although they were preparing for a mission, the thought of it taking place at a research facility just did not sound exciting to the Marines. As the days passed, the Marines were finally given more information about the mission they had been preparing for. They were being sent to the Black Mesa Research Facility, but they were not told what the mission was or when they would be leaving. They were instead told something odd, that they were waiting for it to happen, but no one knew what it was. This suggested that the higher-ups at Black Mesa or the government man that had visited Santiago had something planned for the research facility and needed the Marines to fix it. Something was about to go wrong and they just needed to wait for it to happen. Although his unit waited to be deployed, Adrian almost hoped that whatever they were waiting for never happened, as a secret research facility just did not sound exciting at all to him. During this intense week of training, drill instructor Dwight T. Barnes and Sharp continued to push their Marines in preparation as they waited. They had formed the perfect task force, the Hazardous Environment Combat Unit, to complete this mission, a dangerous and very efficient cleanup crew. Way out in the New Mexico desert, the scientists at the Black Mesa Research Facility prepared for an upcoming experiment. However, this experiment functioned a little differently to how they usually worked. Essentially, over the years, Black Mesa had discovered another world or border world during their experiments with teleportation, Zen. On their expeditions of Zen, their survey teams brought back samples for the teams on Earth to study. These range from flora and fauna to various other interesting items found across the floating islands. In the Sector C test labs, the scientists theorized that if they could manipulate the exotic energy within the crystals scattered across Zen, they could potentially open up wormholes at will to explore the rest of the universe. They just had to find the correct sample and learn how to control this energy. On the lead up to the experiment, the Anomalous Materials team had been given a new sample, GG-3883. This was said to not only be the purest sample they had come across, but it was also one of the largest. As a result, the administrator ordered that the Anomalous Materials team go beyond the standard testing procedure to make sure they received results from this. This was a very important experiment. As the experiment began, a research associate and materials handler, Dr. Gordon Freeman, pushed the sample into the beam of the anti-mass spectrometer as the team observed from above. Upon impact, the crystal shattered and flooded the chamber with the exotic energy that they had hoped to use to further their research. In a way, they were correct that this energy could create wormholes, as it led to a tear in space between Earth and Zen, a resonance cascade. Over the following hours, headcrabs, barnacles, vortigauns, and various other hostile Zenian creatures flooded the halls of Black Mesa as the personnel attempted to flee. The security guards attempted to take them out, but the constant waves of Zenian lifeforms overwhelmed them as they watched those they had been hired to protect die in brutal ways. In this chaos, Dr. Rosenberg, with the help of Dr. Gina Cross and Dr. Colette Green, called out for help. This was the call the Hazardous Environment Combat Unit was waiting for. At the Santiago military base, the HECU were quickly deployed on Ospreys to Black Mesa. It had happened, but the Marines were still unaware of what the mission actually was. They were told on their way in that they would get their orders upon landing at Black Mesa. As they entered the New Mexico desert, the HECU in their respective Ospreys discussed why they were being sent here. How interesting could a research facility be? In this moment, Zenian aircrafts flew into the path of the arriving HECU and shot down the Ospreys Goose 3 and Goose 7. Luckily, the other Ospreys avoided this attack and managed to land safely. Finally, upon having reached the landing zone, they were told their orders. The Hazardous Environment Combat Unit had been tasked with cleaning up an experiment that had gone wrong at Black Mesa. This experiment had essentially ripped a hole in space and allowed alien lifeforms access to the facility. It was their job to take out the alien creatures and execute anyone within Black Mesa that had information about the experiment and knowledge of the existence of Zen. This meant all security guards, scientists, and whoever else was in the building. At this point, everyone was aware of the Zenian creatures as they roamed the halls, and so everyone was a target. Regardless of whether the Marines disagreed morally with what they had been ordered to do, they had a job, and so they entered the building and fought with the Zenian creatures as they tracked down the personnel of Black Mesa. Their role in the early hours was fairly easy as the scientists mistook them for help. In this window of relief, the Marines either gunned them down or interrogated them for information about the location of their colleagues. As time passed, the HECU brought in additional supplies and set up camps with sandbags, ammo, weaponry, and even mounted weapons to take out anything that came their way. The scientists and civilians in the building were harmless, but the security guards still had training in combat, just not to the extent the Marines had. Their mission in addition, the Marines either gunned them down or interrogated them for information about the location of their colleagues. As time passed, the HECU brought in additional supplies and set up camps with sandbags, ammo, weaponry, and even mounted weapons to take out anything that came their way. The scientists and civilians in the building were harmless, but the security guards still had training in combat, just not to the extent the Marines had. Their mission was simple: take out anything they saw, but this did not go as planned. As long as the connection between Earth and Zen remained open, the creatures on the other side still had access to Black Mesa, and with it, they continued to teleport in to act as additional reinforcements. Slowly, the halls filled up with more and more Zenian lifeforms. In response to this, the HECU used all of their training and expertise to wipe them out, but they soon realized that there was always another alien to kill. As their numbers dwindled, the squad members also heard reports of a scientist that had shown the ability to adapt and survive in this impossible situation. On his traversal of the fallen facility, Dr. Gordon Freeman killed the HECU he encountered to the point where they suffered major casualties. They had done their best to complete their mission, but the continuous incoming hostile flora and fauna of Zen, along with the rogue scientist, left them in a tough situation, and shortly after, they felt overwhelmed. In this tough situation, the HECU sought out Gordon and became more brutal in their attempts to capture him. They interrogated every scientist they encountered in the hopes they could take out the man that had decimated their force. Some wanted revenge, and others believed he had been responsible for the resonance cascade in the first place. In a way, he had, but he had merely been a puppet of a much greater, unknown force. The same force that had brought the HECU to Black Mesa in the first place. Overwhelmed, the HECU decided to call their mission a failure, and they announced by radio that they were pulling out and every unit was to head to an evacuation point. Several hours had passed since the resonance cascade had occurred. Much had happened in this time. However, there was one Marine that was confused. Corporal Adrian Shepard had fallen unconscious after his Osprey, Goose 7, had been taken down by an alien aircraft. He was lucky that a Black Mesa scientist discovered him and brought him to safety. He had missed all of the action, and as he finally woke up and explored the hallways, he reached a HECU radio and learned that the mission was a failure. The HECU had suffered heavy casualties and had decided to pull out. So he made his way to the evacuation point. However, upon his arrival, as he attempted to enter the Osprey evacuation point, the government man Adrian had noticed watching him back at Santiago appeared and locked him inside of the building. Trapped, Adrian watched as the final Osprey left without him, and aware that the HECU also planned an airstrike on the surface, he made his way deeper into Black Mesa to survive it. There was a plan in place for Adrian. The remaining Marines stranded in Black Mesa all looked for a new exit as they took out scientists, security guards, and Xenian lifeforms. Aside from their discovery of an exit, the HECU really wanted to find Gordon Freeman. In their attempts to flee and hunt down the Freeman, the HECU learned that the Black Ops had also been sent in to clean up the situation. However, to the surprise of the Marines, they learned that the Black Ops were not here to help them. They were tasked with the execution of all witnesses to the Black Mesa incident, and now this also included all remaining members of the HECU. As the remaining grunts attempted to escape this nightmare, they fell one by one to the Black Ops, security guards, scientists, and Xenian creatures. They also learned that another alien invasion had also entered Black Mesa, only known as Race X. The constant onslaught of this invasion left little hopes of escape. At this point, Corporal Adrian Shepard continued on his own and found himself in a parking garage. With his advanced training, he managed to defend himself against the Black Ops guarding this location, and here, he discovered exactly what their plan was. They had brought in a thermonuclear device and planned to use it to destroy the entire facility, and with it, everyone inside. Adrian was different to his comrades. He wanted to help as many people as possible survive this incident, and under the instructions of a Black Mesa security guard, Adrian deactivated the device. With this clear danger gone, he followed the advice of the security guard and made his way deeper into a warehouse to seek exit. However, on his way there, he watched from behind a window as the G-Man interfered once again and reactivated the device. Unable to reach it, Corporal Adrian Shepard continued onto the warehouse. He was never seen again. The Hazardous Environment Combat Unit were trained for a mission that appeared to have been planned to